We're live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, Shawn Francis. I am Brian Altunian. And today, at a special time, our show today is going to be an interesting conversation. We have two warriors who work together and individually, separately on two different missions to change the world in the area of special needs. A blended family with an amazing story. We're excited for you to hear what this is all about, and we're going to be talking about siblings of special needs children, among other things, here today on Just Two Dads. Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brian Altunian. There's something going on today this week in my throat, so I apologize if I cleared my throat a few times today. I'll try to do it off microphone. I want to welcome everybody who's catching us live on Facebook. I know it's an unusual time, but we wanted to make sure that we could spend as much time with our guests as possible, and this was the best time to do that. So if you're catching us live on Facebook, welcome. If you're catching us after the fact on YouTube, please subscribe, share this with your friends, let other people know about our podcast and the difference we're trying to make in the world of our special needs community. You can also hear us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, anywhere that you can hear podcasts, and down in the U.S. Virgin Islands on WSTX AM radio. We welcome all of our audience. If you're catching us live, as Joe has done here, feel free to put comments, give us comments. We'll bring them into the conversation and we'll ask questions of our guests. It'll be an opportunity for you to interact. And after the fact, if you've got questions, please reach out and let us know. We can put you in contact with Thomas and Jeniece. So we're excited for you to hear their story. So before we get into that, just want to say hello to all of you and hello to my partner in Thrive and my co-host and business partner, colleague, friend, family, Mr. Shawn Francis. How you doing today, Shawn?
I am blessed and grateful. I know I said that every time, and I try to jump right into it after you so kindly give me the intro, but I'm going to try and do that in an even more expeditious manner than usual, because today, and we've done this before, but in this case, we've got a couple, but two people who have dynamic stories individually as well as together. And I can almost guarantee, as sure as the sun came up this morning, that we are not going to have enough time to get into all of it. But let's attempt to do so by first welcoming Thomas and Jeniece. Welcome to Just Two Dads.
How you doing?
Hello, thank you.
We are great and blessed. So you guys are both members of the special needs community. We'll kind of get into how that took place. You might see yourselves as just as people. We see you as heroes, and every hero has an origin, and from that origin comes one's powers. So I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but if you can tell us a little bit about your childhood, how and where you were raised, where you're from, and begin with that at the very least before we get into your path to the special needs community.
I'll let you go first.
No, okay.
Gracious.
You're right. So graciously. Thanks you guys for having me on today, me and my husband. I am actually from Stone Mountain, Georgia. It's outside of Atlanta. Born and raised here, born in Atlanta, raised in Stone Mountain. What about my childhood? I grew up in the church. That's one thing I can say. I grew up in a very religious household. My father was a pastor. My mother was a pastor's wife. He had a church of his own for most of my childhood until he separated from that, and we started just attending church. I have there's four of us in our family. I'm the oldest of four kids. Brother, there's me. My brother is 15 months apart. And I have a sister and another brother. So we all grew up together. I attended Shiloh Elementary, middle school, high school. My childhood was pretty awesome. Honestly, I grew up playing a lot of sports. Soccer was my favorite. I played it from about 8 years old until high school. I was into dance. I had some experiences growing up that honestly kind of took me different routes in regards to my religious upbringing from going
Mhm.
to private school and attending a public school, which was a very big transition for me.
Yeah.
I lived in a very sheltered household, so a lot of things
Mhm.
I did not know I learned from my friends at school, and that's not really how you want to go about learning things in life. I grew up kind of naive, and yeah, that took me down a couple different paths that I probably wouldn't have went down had I had more information. Um, what else? My school is predominantly white, so I went to a predominantly white school. So that's a big difference between me and my husband, as he'll share later on with his upbringing. Um, in some of my classes, I was the only Black girl, and some of the churches we attended, I was the only Black girl. So that's something that was very uncomfortable, and stuff that we didn't really talk a lot about was that until like recently in the last few years, as I've talked to my siblings and we're like unraveling our past and our childhood and just different traumas that we've experienced. I got pregnant when I was 18 years old. I married my husband, my ex-husband then, and yeah, we had 3 more children and had a divorce 6 years later. He gave me an ultimatum that I needed to stay home. I wanted to go to school, and so I chose to leave and start over. My first oldest son has autism and epilepsy, and I think that's pretty much my entire childhood up until
Wow.
yeah. So there's a
How
lot
old is he?
in there. Who?
You're Christian. Yes, that's your oldest.
Christian
Yes.
is my now that we're married, he's our second oldest. He is 16 years old right now, and he was diagnosed at the age of 2, and he started having seizures at the age of 2, and he's had seizures pretty much every day since the age of 2.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, I know. Like I said, I knew we were going to run out of time. I'm trying to unpack it all because there's pieces of it that. So chronologically speaking, Thomas is not in the picture yet,
No, he's
and
not in the picture yet.
that alone gives him props before he even begins to open his mouth. Man to man, nothing but love.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm a little biased because my wife and I have 7 reasons to have our last name be Jackson, Walton, or Osmond, but that is not the case. I know what it's like to come into a blended family. To do that from a special needs perspective, that's something else. And then I'm thinking about the fundamental difference between you and your husband for you to stand your ground as a woman and just like, okay, that's the ultimatum. Well, this is the choice.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I don't know how many minutes are we in now at this point.
We're like
We're like less than 8 minutes in, and I'm already emptying my prop buckets to both of you because as I'm talking about Thomas, and then thinking about your situation, and this is not today, this is years ago.
Oh yeah.
For you to have been like, well, I know who I am and what I need to do. If that's your ultimatum, then this is not where I'm supposed to be. That is not a small thing at all.
It's huge.
Much love and respect. That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Huge. Because you're also then deciding, and I don't know the details of it, but you're deciding however involved or not involved your husband is going to be, you are going to leave and go raise your child who has special needs and will need you more than the average child. A neurotypical child will need a parent.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Okay, so we're going to jump around a little bit then as a result of that. So then, Thomas, tell us a little bit about your story and your origin, your path, and your upbringing.
All right. So while Jeniece grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, kind of going north, maybe a little east, I grew up in Southwest Atlanta. Grew up in the inner city of Atlanta. I grew up in a middle-class family, but for some odd reason, I chose a different route. I was very adventurous and a thrill seeker. So oftentimes found myself in trouble. Now, I did play sports growing up. I love sports, basketball particularly. So I played up through my freshman year in college. But my childhood was a little different, I would say. I mean, a lot of people say that, but I still haven't heard too many like mine. I'm the youngest of 5. I had a blended family and literally did not know what a blended family was until I met Jeniece, honestly. But
that was just family as far as you knew.
Yeah, it was just family as far. We didn't say half brother, sister, none of that. It was just my brothers and sisters. My oldest is almost 30-year difference, almost a 30-year difference in age.
Wow.
My second oldest is adopted. Yeah, and then the closest one to me is maybe 8 years older than me. And I was closest to my oldest sibling. She was like a mother, but at the same time, a good sister.
Yeah.
But you know, I like I said, I took to the streets. I mean, at a young age, I was doing any and everything. People thought it was being rebellious. I was just having fun. But it caught up to me. Not only getting in trouble, you know, I didn't know at that time either that I suffered from depression. So I was always looking for outlets and things like that, and never went treated. Being in the inner city of Atlanta, one is predominantly African American, and we know the stigmas and things that go along with that. You don't seek help for depression, but that depression led to substance abuse. I am a very open book when it comes to my struggles with alcoholism. I just recently celebrated my soberversary on November 3rd, but you know, I always thank you. I always say I'm a fighter and an advocate for mental health and substance abuse, and I continue that fight to the day I go on. But just like Jeniece, though, I had a child at an early age. My son was born before my 18th birthday, and so our oldest child together is turning 18 in December, and going to college. But you know, my childhood was filled with a lot of adventure, being wild. I did make it to college. I graduated from college, but came back to Atlanta with not a clue what to do.
Where did you go to school, to
I
college?
went to Florida A&M University, Tallahassee,
Okay.
Florida.
Okay. So you went to an HBCU. Okay.
Yes, but
Okay.
you know, I say I grew up in a middle class family. I didn't see my father a lot, so at times it felt like living in a single parent home. But lo and behold, I have taken on a lot of the same personality and traits as my father. I've been a businessman since I can remember. But a major difference is my closeness and my love for that family. I sacrifice and do everything to have more time and freedom with my family than I do money. Not to say we don't cherish making money, but we do spend a lot
But it
of
serves a purpose.
yes, definitely. So I've always been family oriented, and that's just been me. And my wife has been very instrumental in me changing my life, turning things around. And but that childhood was something it's something of fables and something of story, but I guess I won't go too in depth. But it was like yin and yang with us. We had very different upbringings. I wasn't brought up in the church. Matter of fact, very early on, since I spent so much time with my grandparents and aunts, I was raised with Jehovah's Witnesses. I was raised in the Kingdom Hall. Is another dynamic.
That's a totally different. That's a different dynamic and a different world unto itself. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, I grew up predominantly Black neighborhoods. That's all I knew, and you know, when I got the opportunities, I love to explore. I love to work and create and be around everyone. So
that's fantastic.
And funny fact is, we met in our freshman year at high school at summer camp. Our parents sent us to summer camp, and we just happened to meet and talk then in Savannah, and then lost contact until 15 years later.
Yeah.
That was my next question. I was going to ask how you guys met. So let's then go to 15 years later when you guys, you meet in high school. I'm assuming everything is platonic and you just, you're just friends, everything's cool or whatever. 15 years goes by. Tell us about what has transpired in each of your lives within that 15 years and your romance, your path, your purpose, and all of that, especially as it ties to the special needs community then.
Well, I'll definitely say that it wasn't just platonic. We had the little puppy love back when we first met.
Okay, I was wrong.
Yeah, that was actually one of my first organized dates. We went to the Georgian Terrace and our parents met and all of that. But
wow.
So you guys actually then courted.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, kind of. Like
that's what it's like. That's old school.
Yeah.
That's before cell phones and all that other stuff. So we both went our separate ways. And
but the question,
what happened in 15 years?
15 years.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What did you? Because obviously, what you bring to this new table, so to speak, as you get reacquainted,
Yes.
Dictates everything about who you are and where you go and all those kind of things.
Well, I guess in 15 years, I graduated. I had my son. I got married and had 2 additional kids with my ex-husband. Got divorced. Reconnected with somebody from my high school. And actually, when I was married, I'll go back. When I was married to my husband, I was in a very religious marriage. So I did everything that I thought I was following my mother's lead. Not saying that she told me to act a certain way or to be submissive or to be to follow the path, but I really believe that after I got pregnant with my son, that if we got married immediately, which he was born on March 25th, I got out of the hospital and we got married March 27th of 2005. And I was like, this is what God wants. This is his purpose for my life. I need to be here and do this. And it wasn't until my father passed away, which tomorrow is actually his 15th anniversary. I mean, his year, 15 years. He would have passed 2006. Yeah. It's tomorrow, November 11th. And I was pregnant with Caleb, my second oldest. And I realized I wasn't happy. And I was still 19. I was very young. And we didn't know what we were doing. My husband was older than me. And Christian was starting to have these seizures. And I thought he was having they called them spasms. And unfortunately, we went to a couple neurologists and they kept telling us those aren't seizures, they're just spasms, they're muscle spasms. He's just jerking, it's okay.
Wow.
And out he was having seizures this entire time.
Wow.
So he got, he was diagnosed with epilepsy eventually. And then he was talking at one point when he was 2 and he stopped. We thought it was affected because my father passed away and they were very close. He was spending a lot of time with my father when I was at work. My ex-husband was at work. And he lost all type of verbal communication, pointing to his nose. He would just sit there, play with balls. Wasn't potty trained until he was 6. There were just so many different things that were going on. And my ex-husband was very, again, religious. Pray it away. We're speaking the blood over it. What have we done wrong? He's cursed. We need to fix ourselves so we can heal our son. It was a lot of trauma involved in those first 6 years in my first marriage. And so when I finally left, I kind of went all the way the other way. And I was like, I ain't never been around no church people no more. I'm leaving. I'm taking my kids with me. We're going to go. And then I went to wow, I've never went to a club before. I've never done anything before. So I went to the club, my ex-husband was getting the kids on every other weekend. So on those weekends they weren't there. I was like, oh, I'm having fun. This is what life is really like. This is what I missed in high school or college or whatever. And I ended up with another person that I thought I was going to be with. We ended up being together. And in my head, I'm like, God sent me this person because, we knew each other in high school kind of, and I ended up getting pregnant. And even though there were a lot of red flags, as people are going around talking about these red flags, but I was in a lot of domestic incidences where I should have probably left. And because I felt this protection over my kids and wanting to not have 2 baby daddies and be out there in this world with a set of twins and 3 other children, I stayed. And I stayed in a very unhealthy situation, a situation where I lived on eggshells and walking around my kids. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my twins that I realized that, oh my gosh, my other kids have needs too. All these appointments, I'm pregnant, going to appointments with Christian, and I'm not going to appointments by myself with Christian. Caleb and Jada are with me every step of the way. We're at every appointment together, every neurology, driving 2 hours, waiting in the waiting rooms. We're in the car while he's doing his speech, his OT, his ABA, whatever. The siblings were always there. And as I was struggling, I started to notice they were kind of acting out in school. And they're in elementary school. So what is acting out in elementary school, you say? Well, my son decides one day, it's funny now, kind of looking back, but he writes FU MFers on their whiteboard at the school. And he thinks nobody knows he did it, when in fact there's like cameras at the school. So, they call and they're like, Caleb, did this thing, he's in trouble. And I'm like, that's not my son. He would never do that. He's like 10. Like, why would he do that? And he did. And he admitted, like, hey, Mom, I didn't think I was going to get caught. Like, I didn't know they had cameras. I wouldn't have did it. But realizing, like, oh my gosh, there are some needs that my kids are having. I have to miss appointments. Like, they can't be involved in any extracurricular activities because their brother has things, and I'm a single mom and there's nobody. Mm-hmm. So I go online, Instagram, Facebook, and start just putting out information, looking for support and help. And I found a whole community of people who were interested in supporting the siblings and the families.
Right.
I also met him sliding into his DM. I saw him show up. As people you may know, and y'all probably get notifications like that.
Right.
And I was like, I do know him. He does look familiar. He looks happy. I didn't think anything would come of it. And I slid into his DM and said, hey, I don't know. I think I said my whole name. This is Jeniece.
No, you didn't say your middle name, but I responded.
Yeah, with my middle name.
Because I remembered everything about her.
Love that.
I don't remember people too much, but I remembered every detail.
Everything about her. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, then that just took off. Like, we're it.
And my experiences with, especially talking about autism were a little different. I mean, I had one or two autistic cousins, but because of, I think still to this day, because of the religion that my auntie and some of the other family practice and things like that, they hid it. I mean, even to this day, I'm like the poster child for trouble because I'm very transparent and I'm open about everything. But a lot of my family hides what's going on, and they hid the fact that I had cousins that were autistic. And so I didn't know much about it, but I just knew they had, some different nuances, different ways of just moving. And, I didn't think nothing of it. And then when I had my son, sometimes they would ask questions because I took care of some other kids as well. And I would start getting questions about autism and things about that nature. I knew nothing about it. Like if my son did well, he got in some accelerated classes, but if he had trouble, there was questions. Does he have some behavioral problems? Is he on the spectrum? I knew nothing about it. But, autism never played a major role until, me and Jeniece connected. And Jeniece, it seemed like she was trying to push me away because first when we connected, she was like, well, I have kids. I'm like, okay, I have a child too. And she's like, well, I have a child with special needs. I was like, okay, what does that mean? Like,
Jeniece, you were going through the checkpoints, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just letting put it all out there.
And, I met the twins first, but when I met Christian, it was a connection. And I say this with all sincerity. He just seemed pure. He was not tainted. He connected. We talked. The other kids, had their idiosyncrasies. They, probably some ideas were put in their head by their fathers and whatever. But Christian was just pure. If he wants to deal with you, he's going to deal with you. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And either way, it's okay. We know it's not aggressive. It's not to be mean or anything, but I instantly connected. And a lot of me sticking close to Christian was out of curiosity because I didn't know anything about autism. But I mean, the love is just, it's amazing. And over the, it seems like forever, but over the past few years, I mean, it hits me when he's going through the seizures. It's like, I'm going through it with him, or when he's coming out and recovering, it's like to know that he comes to me first. And I'm thinking that he comes to me first. It's just a good feeling that he'll come. Beautiful. He's not talking now. He's still a pretty almost nonverbal, but he'll just come and lay his head on you or just touch you. And it's just a feeling. I can't really describe it fully, but it's beautiful. So much different than all the other kids. And even my firstborn, I mean, I always said we had a connection like no other, but when it comes to Christian, it's a whole different connection. And
Mm-hmm.
prior to Christian, I really had no experience with autism, definitely not with epilepsy, which is one of the scariest things I've ever been a part of. But, I do any and everything I can. And that's empowered me to push harder, especially in our communities, because we don't want to talk about it. No matter how bad the situation is, no matter what's going on in our communities, we rather just sweep it under the rug. And it's like, I can't do that. And having a background in mental health and wellness, it just kind of went hand in hand. I mean, it was just aligned. It just aligned.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you something that I know you're not looking for and you probably don't even need. But thank you, because we always hope that our children will encounter somebody that allows them to be themselves, and to see a man do that, it's just huge. Brian and I met through our work in financial services, and we started a mission to make sure that we're helping people put plans together for the time where we like to say the time where we exist only in memory. And our mortality is right there in front of us, so I'm just touching a bunch of different ways. Some of it just because of compassion and humanity, period. I enjoy sports. I enjoy good movies and things like that. And what I enjoy just as much, 500 times more, is just seeing people be kind to other people. It just fills my soul. And as a father to a son with autism, whose future is, questionable as far as independence, but yet we fight every day to strengthen it. Man, it just grabs the heck out of me to hear something like that. So thank you, and great job on you.
Well, for me, it's thankless work. I didn't see myself doing anything else. And we have those days where it's unclear, but we definitely try our best and live in that moment and enjoy the moments that we do have, because we don't know what's next. But we definitely, I mean, even what just took place
a couple
days ago, we have a 3-story home, and he likes to stand at the top of the stairs near his bedroom, and he literally eased up and tumbled down the stairs. And I usually don't get emotional, but that moment, it was just something I never even thought was possible. And I heard our oldest daughter scream, and she doesn't show any emotion. And I ran down there trying to play big tough dad, and I had to hide my face at times to keep her calm.
Yeah,
I wasn't calm.
She was not calm, but I had to just assure her and hold him and ensure that he's okay. I'm like, he's breathing, he's fine, he's waking up, But it's thankless work for me. It's not even work. It's just it's what I need, what I have to do. It's not a choice. Yeah. It's just thankless. So
it's an amazing. First of all, it's an amazing story to hear what you two have created together in your home. Coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, and then experiencing each other's children and each other's lives. But then you've taken that, which is something that I love about our warriors in the special needs community. You've taken that experience and you've gone outward and are serving now other people. Jeniece, I know you speak on domestic violence survivorship, on motherhood, and you had brought this up before, on siblings of special needs children. And I think it's so interesting because, we always talk about parents of special needs children, and then parents who have a we have a relatedness with each other, and we know what each other have been going through. We thought about the whole idea of what siblings go through as they sit in the car, wait for an appointment, or watch something happen like you just experienced a couple of days ago. So can you talk about then what you've done to take this amazing collective experience and gone outwards? Because you've now turned this into serving the community. Yeah.
That's right. We have, over the last 3 years, we have It really started again from social media, creating groups and communities online and supporting each other, asking tough questions. And really, it came from a point of curiosity, similar to how Trey is with autism. When I came in, like, I'm a mom and I have these extra kids here that I think I'm doing well with, but am I really doing well? And then I have siblings reaching out, adult siblings, asking questions. Like, how can I reach out? I've never had anyone ask about me before. No one, when I was growing up, my brother was in the hospital or he was in school. It was always about my brother or it was always about my sister. And I've always knew that one day I would have to be responsible. Or what do we do as parents to prepare our kids? Are we preparing our kids? Do we let them ask questions? And now we go around and we share and we talk and have these conversations. I'll host workshops, opportunities and challenges when raising siblings, helping parents to understand a different perspective and realizing that, yes, you could be doing things, all the right things. Intentions are well, and you could still get it wrong. And they could still have needs that are being unmet. And it's okay to look for extra support, like therapy, support where the kids can actually meet other siblings like themselves. Because the struggle of growing up in adolescence is nobody gets it. Nobody gets while I'm up all night and my brother keeps turning on the TV and I can't even sleep because he's up and I can't explain it to my teachers. They don't get why my homework's not done. They don't get why I got crumbled up. They don't understand.
Right.
We didn't go to school yesterday because we was in the hospital last night.
Right.
Nobody gets that. My friends don't understand. I'm embarrassed to have my brother, come to my performance because he's going to scream. I don't want none of my friends to come to my house. Just different things that I've learned over the years and creating these relationships with other organizations, because there are sibling organizations out there, but we don't hear about them.
You don't hear about them. Matter of fact, yours is the only one that I know of. And it's funny because, and I think, some of our audience knows the reason why we have 7 children is because my wife had 2 daughters from her previous marriage. We had our son, Elijah, who's diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, but then we became first legal guardians to, and then eventually adopted my sister-in-law's 4 kids. And I've asked them, especially based on the circumstances under which they came to be with us and the type of patience that one has to have, in terms of what Elijah may need, asking them like, are you guys, okay, it's okay to feel kind of a little maybe resentful or whatever. And they've always gave the right answer. Never one where they're like, oh, how come I don't get this? How come never once have I ever taken for granted that their answer is everything, because they're answering as best as they possibly can. But when you stop to think about the things that we realize about ourselves as our consciousness grows and our attempt to do critical thinking about what we think about and what we discover is like, wait a minute, I've been doing X, Y, and Z for that long. I didn't even realize that. Well, then the same thing has to be true of them. So to have an organization like your own, and again, like I said, I consider myself to be someone who's fairly conscious and, woke in terms of what's out there and never satisfied, always looking, but I don't know of any other organization that does this besides your own. So I appreciate you being able to share that too.
No, I thank you. I'm so glad that you even asked your kids those questions. And I would just encourage you to continue to ask them and create that space, because I think sometimes our kids they don't want to put anything extra on us. They see it all. And so that's something that we'll get a lot of the times, that I'm good at school. I perform well. I don't do anything because I don't want to put anything extra on mom and dad because they already have so much with my brother. So I won't answer honestly. And you won't get sometimes you won't get those tough questions answered until you bring in a neutral party to give them a space to say like, it's okay to feel like this. Your feelings are really important too. Right. And I remember Jada one time, I had missed a performance of hers and we were late. And she was like, oh, it's okay. I know Christian needs you more. I know he needs you. And it broke my heart. Like, you need me too, and I'm
like she's acknowledging, but she's acknowledging it's a different kind of love, yet still.
Yeah. It's love.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been now they're teenagers. So it's we're in a whole different aspect right now with them.
Yeah.
Where I cannot do anything right. I don't dress right. I don't talk right. Like 3 years ago.
All the coolness is out the window.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not cool mom no more. Like it's like
Yeah. Drop me off around the corner. What?
No, I'm not. I'm cringy. Like right now, I'm cringy.
And that's just her. I'm cool.
Yeah, he's cool. Like
so cool.
And he turns on me, so I'm just cringy all the way around. Nobody likes it. But
it's okay. I get a little bit of both. Some days I'm like, kind of cool. You're really cool when somebody other than them makes a comment about you, like a friend or something. Like, yeah, your dad's kind of like, yeah, see, I told you. And like, and yet they look at you like, I don't know what my friend is smoking.
Right.
You're old.
Just saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely we work a lot. Where Trey is opening his fitness, I'm not fitness, the wellness center, because everything's changed and it's all about wellness. The siblings, special needs siblings, is going to be opening or launching our super sibling support groups. And we become facilitators for sib shops. And we're only one of 2 in Georgia. And we'll be operating in the Southwest Atlanta area, which is so exciting because it's a scarce area. Like we do not have resources like that in all of Atlanta, especially in the minority community. And it's a beautiful thing because last year we actually started a BIPOC sibling adult panel. It was a round table and we did it bi-monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Where we had BIPOC adult siblings sharing their experiences. And there were not dry eyes listening.
Explain for our audience what BIPOC is.
BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, people of color. So a lot of these sibling spaces, honestly, do not have people of color in them. And it's not that,
ridiculous.
I won't say that it's not that we're not welcome. Sometimes we just don't know. And the spaces were just not, I found an autism sibling support group when Christian was like 5, and I tried to bring my kids and I just didn't feel welcome. Like that's the truth. I didn't feel welcome. And I told the executive director when I went through my facilitator training, I said, I'm glad that, this is happening, that, I'm able to be a part of this, but I tried to do this 10 years ago and it didn't work because I didn't feel welcome. And instead of feeling defensive, she took such an open approach and said, I'm sorry, that is not what sib shops are about. That's not what our creator would have wanted. Let's have more conversations. What can we do? And now we are like the closest friends. Like it's just having these conversations, and we call them uncomfortable conversations, where we go and we talk and we ask and we create spaces where people feel like you want to be heard. And a lot of times the siblings and the families, they just want somebody to listen.
Yep.
We just want somebody to like hear their experiences and make sure like they're seen as valid. And a lot of times, Christian is not a burden to their brother or sister, but that doesn't mean that I don't have feelings. Like he's still my brother. So I don't like him all the time. So why are you trying to make me like him all the time? Even if he has autism, epilepsy, I don't care what disability somebody has. If you're a sibling, you're still going to have these sibling vibes and relationships and boundaries and like all this tension. You're just not going to be able to sweep it under the rug and not address it. So
for sure,
we definitely create spaces where people feel like we can have these uncomfortable conversations. Yeah.
Amazing. And Thomas, we talk about your wellness practice as well, because we've talked in the past. We've had nutritionists, we've had folks who have been on guests on our show who've talked about the correlation between physical health and well-being and special needs, cognitive issues, and they do go hand in hand. Although,
completely.
Talk about your business as well and how it
launched and everything. Yeah.
Well, my wellness just came into play, having to scramble and find a charger because we didn't charge his computer right.
Oh, wellness comes in many forms.
Yeah, it comes in many forms. But, I talk about my background and my history with depression and mental health and substance abuse. And, I used to find the fix to go to the gym. And that's an outlet. It's like my calm. It's a place that I always went, but I never got that sense of true peace. I never got that relief. I never was able to sit and understand my mental health, understand what well-being is, because anytime you hear health and wealth a lot over here, that means I need to go work out. I need to go play some sports. And, going through what I've gone through and being in facilities, inpatient treatment, I had a lot of time to read and really research and understand what true health and wellness was. And it was almost, I wouldn't say the opposite, but it was very far off from working out. So I just took the approach to really, see what is needed first for myself, because I don't want to be a part of anything, especially in business, that I don't really agree with and I don't take pride in and enjoy myself. I don't want to be in that type of business, but also looking at the community that I serve. And in Southwest Atlanta, very underserved is an understatement. I mean, it's a lot that's not afforded here. And we're literally 10 minutes from one of the most thriving inner cities, or cities rather, in the country, in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But we just don't have the resources. So I'm making a concerted effort to bring any and everything that is needed over here and that I see in a lot of the other communities. When you go to Buckhead, when you go to the Highlands area and some of the other affluent areas in Atlanta. And, we're trying to offer yoga, meditation, a million different disciplines that speak to not only physical health, but mental health. But it doesn't stop there. We want to have those round tables, those in-person experiences where people can come and have a safe place to talk about what they're struggling with, talk about mental health, talk about the resources that they need. I know in the past, growing up, my father was really big on the political scene, and they would have different spaces that the top leaders in the communities would go and just meet and discuss all the issues. I want that to be here in this wellness center. And we're focused on, to me, is what needs to be focused on before you get to the major issues and, the deterioration of the body, when you get to crime and everything. I think it starts with mental health. And it was only right that special needs siblings was a part of this, because it's dealing with health and wellness. When you talk about these siblings and the family members, stress and depression that they experience because they don't have the outlets, they don't have people to talk to, and they don't know which way is up sometimes. And we can all share this space and go after our one common goal, which is wellness, which is having that safe space and being able to thrive. So this, I got to this point. I got some funding, personal, public, got some grants. I reached out to any and everybody possible, and told first my story, and then made people really realize what's going on in our city and why we can be kind of like a catalyst. We can be that guinea pig project that teaches what can be done in a lot of inner cities across America and beyond. And yeah, we're getting there. We were hoping to be open by now, but dealing with permitting and anything and everything else that gets in your way, it's delayed the process. But I think it's going to be perfect timing once we get that date. Hopefully December, maybe even January, that we open. So we'll have the SIP shops that'll be there. We'll have all the wellness opportunities. If we don't have it to start out, we're always going to be open to what is really needed, and having therapists in there and people, licensed individuals who can speak to wellness.
So you have a brick and mortar that you're going through, prep and everything as far as permits and all that kind of stuff to be able to finally open up to the public then.
Yep.
Yeah, we've almost got them in hand, which should be before the end of this week. And once we get that permit, it's a couple weeks process and we're open.
I want to comment on something that you said. I don't even know if you're aware of it. I think this is so beyond special needs. It's about just perception and the way the mind works. You said it might not open, and I'm paraphrasing here, so if I actually butcher, please let me know. We'll find out once this airs and we look at the tape. But you said this might not open. We might not open when we hope to, but it'll be perfect timing, something to that effect. that alone speaks to, surrendering to the universe and a higher power, which is like, I'm going to do everything I can to make this thing open. And whenever it opens, and I prefer sooner rather than later, whenever it does open, the timing will be perfect. So that's like they say, things might not work out when you want, but they always work out, right on time, so to speak. You hear that, in the church. I'm a person that's a little bit more spiritual than I am religious, but I caught on to that, and I appreciate the heck out of that. Did that just slip out, or were you conscious of that?
I probably say it a few times, but it wasn't so conscious.
Right.
The big thing that I always say is, when I pray, and I'm more spiritual than anything, I have my higher power. When I pray, I always say, please continue to guide me on that righteous path. And that righteous path is not my planned path. It's not what I want, but it's what I need.
Absolutely.
It's only what I need and what it needs to be.
Yeah, that's about surrender. It's funny. I don't want to get into the whole discussion, but I had a conversation with someone last week where we were talking about that. And I just said, well, I don't know who hears me when I pray, but I'm thankful for the day I see, the food I eat. And I don't know whether you want to call it, I don't know if it's he, she, it, I don't know. You call it God, Yahweh, Jah, whoever. And this person turned to me and said, it's every last one of those ones that you just said. Yeah. And I just thought, okay, we're here. And I love that.
I love it. Sean's got it. God's plan.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Sean. That's awesome. Yeah. Amazing. So such a great, such a great story from the beginning all the way through, and the work that you folks are doing. And Thomas, I know you go by Trey, right? You go by Trey.
Right.
Challenges that you've encountered, because I believe if I remember this correctly, you mentor, you coach, or you talk about entrepreneurs in this space. Is that am I right about that? You kind of give guidance there, and so you're dealing with your own set of circumstances and being an entrepreneur, and then you're coaching other entrepreneurs who bring their own set of circumstances to that. Do you find that there are big differences, or is it really fairly common? Those who are dealing with special needs issues, those who don't, they just have a little different look, or they just appear a little bit differently, but they're basically the same. They're the same issues when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, or the challenges that you have. They're all about the same. Am I correct in that? Is that been your experience?
It's definitely felt like my experiences that, people try and try to separate so many things and feel that their dynamic is so different. But when you get to the meat of it, a lot of us are dealing with the same issues. A lot of us are trying to find this right way of doing things, and there's no right way, but at the end, as long as you have this goal, and most of us have that same common goal, you can go about it the same ways. Mental health is at the middle of everything that we've talked about, whether it's mental health with the family members, mental health with our son, that also plays in the physical health. It all seems to really circle around the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I that's my experience. Has been my experience as well. I wanted to hear if that's how you had encountered it.
But
we like to always
try to act like it's not, but it. Right. I just have to word it different sometimes.
That's the interesting dynamic about being a special needs parent too. So first of all, you got the autism spectrum disorder. Autism itself is broad. Then you got all these other diagnoses, whether it's epilepsy or whatever. I see these categories and subcategories. And when you're dealing with something that can weigh so much and affect so many portions of your life, there's such a tendency to nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows, nobody knows what my situation is like, and to an extent we don't, because my son has autism. Our experience as parents to a child with autism might be completely different than somebody else's. But at the end of the day, it's something that I wouldn't have even said. Brian and I've been doing this show, and I would come with like a year and 2, maybe 3 months, something like that. I never said this. One of our frequent viewers and a one-time guest, Robert Moret from the U.S. Virgin Islands, he said something to an extent where, everybody needs kind of the same thing. And that's when it really hit me. And so, we usually close the show out with, it's one of the things that I say, which is that there is no such thing as special needs, quite frankly. There's only human needs. Everybody needs to be seen. Everybody needs to be heard. Everybody needs to know that they matter and that they're loved. Mm-hmm. And, if we have a disability of some kind, catastrophic accident or developmental delay, whatever the case is, how we go about getting that and the amount that we need might be a little different, but everybody needs the same thing. And it's just another thing it's different, but we forget what we have in common because there's the things that separate us by our race, our gender, or our religion, diagnosis, whatever. But it's just another example of why we got to focus on the things that unite us and the things that we have in common, because there's more of that than there are otherwise.
Very true.
Very true.
Very true.
All right, Shawn, time to ask the question, Shawn.
Okay, drum roll, the $1 million question. We, in our effort to make the world a better place, our ability to do that is largely tied to our ability to change. So I'd like to ask the following of our guests, which is, if you can each give an example in any area of life of a belief or thought that you held dear, that you believe to be as true as the sky is blue, and you no longer feel that way.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I think about it.
I have a saying, okay? And my father would say this all the time. But before learning and listening to this saying, because I didn't want to listen to my father, but as a young kid, I didn't think I could associate with people unless they looked like me, talked like me, came from the same places I came. They had nothing to offer me. But my father sticks to this day, and I've started using it, and I really love this saying. And it speaks more to just than race, but he would say there are people of our color that are not of our kind, and there are people of our kind that are not of our color. But
I never heard that before.
But it speaks to so much more than color, because we always find these things that separate us and divide us. But we're so much more alike than we know. And I can learn and fellowship and be around people from all walks of life. But sometimes those people that you need to steer clear from are those people that are just the same as you, that are really similar. Those are sometimes the most troublesome people. So I've always, not always, but in the past 10 plus years, I've had this open mind that, I want to meet people that look or are totally opposite than me, because I feel like I can learn the most from them. And the people who are just like me, sometimes I need to be a little hesitant in thinking that these are the kind of people I need to be around.
Right.
And I wish everybody would understand that, because we always put race as a separation. We put gender as a separation. We put sexuality as a separation. But if you are really clear on who you are and your objectives in life, I feel like you can learn from everybody and anybody and expand on what you're doing in your life and your lifestyle. So that's
beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes, that's fantastic. I'm writing that down. I love that.
Oh, is it my turn? Okay.
Yeah.
Already. So sitting here thinking, I guess the biggest belief that I had growing up and for the longest was that I could perform or I could do something to earn grace, and to somehow that God was waiting for me to be better or to be the best, or there's like some type of work I could do to earn anything. And that's even just with people and situations. And I would, kind of push myself away from accepting help because I didn't think I was deserving of it and I hadn't done enough. And where I was at is I was there because I deserved it. So I wasn't allowed grace or allotted that. And now I don't feel that way. I feel like grace is something that you give freely and you should accept it as well. And I've learned that a lot from my kids, from my husband, and from like people and complete strangers over the years. Even you all, like just inviting us on here and giving us the opportunity, multiple opportunities to join you.
We did work at this for a while, yeah.
This is how we are, and this is what life is. And there's nothing that I could have done to make my son autistic, or I can't control my kids not liking me all the time. And there are some things that are just totally out of my control, but I still deserve the grace that I've been given. I still deserve, and I'm worthy of all the love that I've received. And so those are things that I've changed over the course of my life. And I'll continue to go.
I'm going to tell you something. Those answers, and we've gotten great answers from previous guests. So this is not a slight to anybody that's been on here before. So I want anybody to be on here. Like, I was on there and I answered that pretty damn profound. But I got to tell you, those are the favorite responses that I've ever had to that question. Wow. What you've done for me, man. Sorry, this is not something to cry about, but I thrive on the exchange of energy. Right. Yeah. This is why we're here on the planet. This is why Brian and I have the great friendship that we do. And I just got so much from you answering that. What you've done is validated the notion that I ever had to ask that question to begin with. Yeah. And what you've done is reminded me is that I need to ask that question more often of those that I come in contact with, those that I meet. Mm-hmm. And we need to ask that question more often of ourselves. Yeah. Because that's our ability. That is the key to the world right there. It just is.
It's okay if I steal that too. I need to ask that question.
Right.
Oh yeah, you do. And as a matter of fact, Jeniece said, thank you for giving us this opportunity. She said multiple opportunities. For those that are listening or watching and wondering what she meant by that, is that we have been in conversation for at least probably maybe 6 months, somewhere around there, about making time to do this. But this is our being right here, right now. This moment in time is an example of what you said earlier, Thomas, in terms of, might not happen exactly when we want it to, but it will happen right on time.
Yeah.
Speaking of which.
Beautiful. Yeah. Speaking of time, this hour always goes by so quickly. And we say it at the end of every show. Like, I can't believe it. It's been almost an hour already. Really want to thank both of you for being such amazing guests, and want to wish you tremendous luck in your endeavors. We're building out our website, and we're going to have a resource page for you. And so people will be able to get in touch with you. If anybody wants to reach out, please, go through the comments, see the websites. Please feel free to reach out. And as we wrap this show, first of all, thank you again, both. It was very touching and so emotional. And I know you definitely hit some nerves there. I saw Shawn a couple of times. I usually am the one that cries first. Today, you hit the nerve with Shawn first. So that was fantastic. So as we wrap up, I always say, now more than ever, empathy and love is so needed. When you see somebody else's situation, be empathetic about what they're going through, because you don't have any unless you know the whole story, you don't know any of the story. So be empathetic. And if we all could look at the world through the lenses of love, the world would be a better place. So I want to thank you again for your time. Shawn, if you want to sign us off, thank you for all of our guests, for all of our viewers, all of our participants, Sean Hall in Hawaii. Thank you for your partnership, Joe, everybody else who's commented, and if you're listening, wherever you're listening, thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. You make it worth our time to spend these precious moments with such great warriors out there in this community. So with that, I'm going to throw it to you, Shawn, to close us out for the day.
I will do so. Thomas and Jeniece, thank you so much for your time and exchange of energy here today. Gratitude eternal, number one. Number two, thank you for everyone that takes the time to listen and follow us each week. Go to our YouTube page, subscribe and share. And as always, remember, somebody needs to know that you love them. There is no such thing as special needs. Again, everybody needs to be seen, heard, and loved. And I want to make sure that I thank the women in my life without whom I could not attempt to even try to be who I want to be. And that means my mom, Jan, and my amazing wife, Laura. And again, thank you guys for participating, everyone. And wherever you are, if you're watching this within the sound of my voice, we love you.
See you soon again, everybody.